Hello and welcome to episode 2 of what in the last episode Reese called the Big Red Arrow Round Table. But I'm going to call the Big Red Round Table, or maybe just Red Table. Someone should Google that in case it's a cult or a secret government department. As we go forward, there will be two types of Red Round Table discussions. Last week the group discussed a single important topic, something with a bit of meat on the bone that required a whole episode by itself. This week we'll be choosing from a list of topics that the group members suggested, but to avoid cherry picking all the good stuff in the first week, we'll select these topics at random using the power of maths. That's enough talk, let's get on with the talk. YouTube pushing tiny channels. This is a recent development that I've noticed and a few other people have commented on. There was a time over the last couple of years where it felt like YouTube was moving away from smaller channels and not pushing us in any way, shape or form. How does everybody, well, we've got a few big ones in here, so I'm going to actually, I'm going to ask Timberwolf first. What do you, how do you feel about this, and have you seen any uptick in recent months?
It's an interesting one for me, actually, which is, and someone else mentioned this, this thing, and this goes back a long time for me. When you're approaching that monetization threshold at 1K, there seems to be a thing that every time you get a video and it just really just goes and it takes you to that threshold. And that certainly happened to me. And I had a video which was about old Sierra adventures and things. And I was like, looking at the things which came before it and the things which came after it, there's nothing about that which makes sense as to why that suddenly took off. But the only thing that I could think is I was very close to that 1K, and YouTube just went, "Hey, we're gonna like throw you a bone. We're gonna give you this thing which takes you to partner." So I think in terms of that, like, what is YouTube doing? So, and I think YouTube are very aware that they need the next generation, which is you get, and I'm going to take this completely outside of retro computing and talk about automotive channels. So there's a thing with automotive channels which you quite often get, which is people start out, they review what is local to them. So you'll get these little channels, and in the US they'll review kind of, old sort of mid-80s Buicks and Chevrolets and things, and you'll be like, that's really interesting. That's like a parallel universe that I never expected from the UK. And then in the UK you'll get, people sort of have old Fiestas and things, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then they start getting access to fancier stuff, and you get to this point where they eventually become big channels. You're like, oh, you're just reviewing like Ferraris and McLarens and things that I've kind of lost interest now. I liked the weird stuff. And I think YouTube has this awareness that channels get big and they get mainstream, but you've got an audience below that who don't want mainstream, who want kind of weird and unusual. And I think they've become very aware of, well, where is this going to come from? Where's my next generation of weird and unusual and strange and sort of a bit esoteric going to come from?
On my screen is right next to you. It's What Ho Snorkers.
Exactly. It's going to come from people dressing up as their favourite characters from their games. That's where retro's going. But yeah, I think they have this sort of thing of, well, we've got to in the feed, and I always see this as YouTube's problem is it gives you a feed on your mobile or your desktop, whatever, and ultimately it's going to give you 6 videos. And its aim is to say, I want you to click on one of those 6. So, and if you think about, you've got 6 boxes into which you can put things. YouTube is kind of, it makes sense for them to go, here's a safe bet. Here's like, your Tom Scott or your Techmoan or your things like that, which are creators who very, very well tried. They're going to do good stuff. They know that you're going to track stuff. You've then got your kind of mid-level, this is something that this person clicked on a little while ago, so maybe we'll try to get them back into that. And then you've got those others. And then you've got this one box where you go, we could just try something completely random. We can give this person a video, as happens for me sometimes, from a channel with like 10 subs that's got 100 views, and see whether this is going to take off. And I think they've pushed a lot more recently, that kind of thing of saying, we're going to take a risk. We're going to, one out of those 6 boxes, we're going to just show you something that's completely Even YouTube, even with like this amazing amount of stats that we collect, we don't know how this is going to work. So we're just going to show it to you and see what happens.
Interesting. Right. So I'm going to throw this out to anybody else now. Would somebody like to weigh in? Okay, Matt?
Yeah, so two things. The first is for sure that YouTube, you can see it over time trying different things with a video that you've had out for a while, and you can see that it's trying different audiences. So at any given time, it could be the video's flatlining for a while. Then suddenly, 3 or 4 weeks afterwards, suddenly there's a spike as it presents it to different people. So it does go back and try to present old videos to new audiences to see if there's a fit, to try and match it to profiles. It definitely does that. I have a theory, though, and this is part 2, and it's a little cynical, so I apologize in advance. But YouTube, I'm sure they have a lot of like psychological studies on how to keep and retain the people that create content and keep them in business. And one way they do that is if you've been around long enough, my channel's 3.5 years old now. If you go back, you can see every 12 months, every 9 months, there's a video that takes off, like you said, for no particular reason. It wasn't maybe your best video or your best production quality or a topic you thought would do well, but it did 10 times better than you thought it would. And you can't explain it. My theory, and this is, again, me being cynical, is that YouTube rewards people every so often, regardless of the quality of your video, just to keep you making content, just to keep your spirits up, just to make sure that you are still engaged and happy. You might have a flat line for a while and you're starting to get a little bit, dejected. And then suddenly you get a video that takes off and, oh, you're happy again. Let's keep making content. I'm not losing my touch. So that's my cynical thought there, but.
Right. Okay. Snorkers, how are things going for you? Are you seeing any uptick in random videos or in general?
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of people. I would say a lot of people from my channel. That's 4 people. Looking at random old videos of mine and say, "Oh, some people are watching that from 3 or 4 years ago, and it's old stuff. It's all right." But I started at learning stuff. It's very much. So my old stuff is. You won't find it unless you're looking for it or you're browsing my channel. So somebody's pushing it somewhere, at least in a trickle, which is fair enough. Because some stuff you're going to find, I want to find about this particular video, this particular game, and only this game. Yeah, you might find my channel. Otherwise, you're not going to find it browsing because
you don't fit into any of the categories very well.
Yeah, it's niche within a niche. To start off with, my first video on Island of Secrets, I had to search for it over multiple pages because it had to go through page after page of Mako Mermaids, which is some kind of show about mermaids or something, who had an episode called Island of Secrets or something, but not them. No, where's me? Oh, here I am. Yes, I think there is a little bit of stuff trickling on now and again.
Okay.
Obviously, it's a slow process.
Right, I'm going to move on to Jim, Trickster Jim first.
I'm not totally sure I have a qualified, formulated opinion on this. This is really a question of discoverability, right? So what are the ways people discover videos? They look at other videos from a channel they're already subscribed to. They search for things either on Google that brings them there or within YouTube itself. And then finally, there's random discovery, which is what we call the algorithm. What does the algorithm push? And I don't have a quick answer as to why some smaller channel, why there's an appearance that they're pushing possibly smaller channels. I know that from the Creator Insider channel from a couple of months ago, they did mention something that they were going to be tweaking the algorithm to do just that, to try to give more smaller creators more of a featured presence, so that not the top trending, but so that they'd be trying to introduce, new people. The way the algorithm typically recommends stuff is that it tries to recommend to your audience what they already enjoy. And that makes it very difficult sort of to be a YouTuber because you can't predict everything your audience likes. You have a good idea. If they're into vintage computing, they're probably going to be into other vintage computing stuff, but they're might be into other things like humor and so on. I guess I'm going to conclude with a non-answer by saying I think it's too nebulous to actually guess. I don't want to think. I mean, I'd love to adopt Matt's idea that they throw a bone to smaller creators to not have them be discouraged and click off the platform. But honestly, I don't know. And that's the frustrating part of making content, is that, the problem with the recommendation algorithm is that it's just a giant Gordian knot of heuristics. And even the people who created it don't necessarily always know how it works. So
I don't think they know at all how it works.
Well, but right. And so I think that as a small creator, the best thing you can do is to simply follow the same advice that made the larger tuber, larger channel successful, which is, engaging thumbnails, don't mislead your audience, and all of the other best practices that we've done. I think at one point we may have to, this is probably a discussion for another day, but at one point we may have to acknowledge that our subject material and our audience has a finite size. So there might be a maximum to where our videos and our channels can grow to. But like I said, that's probably a discussion for another day.
Maybe we'll add that to the list. We'll go to the other Jim now. Jim, now you don't release very much at all, with the best will in the world. But in your sample size, have you seen any uptick at all recently? Any random views piling up?
I just checked a moment ago. I'm averaging on 28 days 11 hours viewed, which for some of you big fish, shall we say, is nothing. To me, that's my bang average, which is strange considering I don't think I've put a video out for 9 months. I don't think. I'm always advertising other people's stuff and other bits I've been working on, all the rest of it. But I think it's a few different integers for me. Is that it's absolutely people finding that one video, which for me is the greatest PS2 game you've never heard of, sort of mystery sort of question, which that's by far the biggest running thing that I've concurrently got going on. From there, if you like whatever short nonsense you find off my channel, it's like-minded sort of little quippy funny things, but my videos average they're about 3 minutes long each, which for some of you guys that make computers or tear things down, things like that, or have a full fancy dress extravaganza on show, you're doing your sort of 10-15 minute videos. So for me to get 11 hours off a dozen 4-minute videos, it's quite successful for me. The sort of integers that I wanted to throw out to you guys is that I know, Matt, you said your channel's a couple of years old now. My YouTube channel has been sat there since 2006. So I'm like granddad YouTube, I think, at this point. But I think I've only got about 90 videos. Don't even think I've got that, to be honest. So it would have to be, does YouTube ignore smaller channels that are old just because it thinks they're not going to push the content out, or they're just past it now? So looking at this, getting this new generation of talent, or whatever you want to call them, content creators, am I past it? Is it purely down to I don't make content, so why should it push me? Fully hands up, I've not made anything for a long time. Last video I made was for Big Red Arrow, which, it's fine, whatever. Got more views than potentially I would have got on my channel in the first week anyway, and this is off a brand new channel. So that sort of argument sort of explains itself, doesn't it? That the new channels are getting a bit more traction than, say, my little old channel. Will that many people watch my video on Big Red Arrow that will watch it on my channel? I've got a core sort of hardcore audience of about 200 people anyway. They'll watch me pooing into a bucket. They'll still watch it and like it and tick it and whatever. Not bothered at all. They will still watch it. They'll still leave a comment. What Snorkers will say, "Ooh, that was lovely." It's, for me, it's an age thing. It's not concurrently putting videos out like every week. I don't know if you guys have got schedules or whatever you stick to. I don't. I just do whatever I feel like, whenever I feel like it. If I'm in the mood to make a video over a weekend, I'll make a video. That's it. So I think it's part and parcel a time thing. If you're constantly putting out content, there's more of a chance of you getting recognised or pushed or whatever you want to call it, which for me is not the case, and I don't see a sort of return on me sitting on my thumbs, which obviously I'm not, because my channel's sort of tailed off.
I was going to actually point out that I did go through and have a look when how long ago everybody released their first video. And old school Jim was 7 years ago, but he's
on that channel, on my personal channel, it was 2008 actually.
Oh, okay, but all right. But Super Jim is 11 years ago was his first content. So yeah, hats off to you for sticking around all this
I've got older stuff that's just unlisted now. There's just
on
really
camcorder.
Yeah, no, but pretty much it was just old.
Haley, I've got a question.
Go on.
When did you start observing this phenomenon of increased views across smaller channels? Has it been a month, 3 months? How long do you think it's been?
Who are you asking?
I'm asking you.
Me. This has been going on for, I would say, 2 or 3 months now.
Okay. Curious for John and Jim Leonard, have you guys noticed a downtick or an uptick in the last 2 to 3 months?
Not really. I mean, there's always a bit of a seasonal dip in my numbers around autumn and the end of summer because, people are busy. They've got other things to do than watch YouTube videos. So mine tend to not fare as well during that period. And then somewhere around Christmas and into New Year, they start to go up again. So I've not really noticed any, if anything, it's done better than it has done in other autumn dips. But yeah, I've not really noticed any impact, except for the feed when I'm watching YouTube is now a little bit more interesting than it was before. I think that's probably why they do it, because if you spoon feed the same thing all the time, your viewers are going to get bored. So shake it up a little bit, show you different people in the same sort of content niche, and then it keeps the viewer a lot more engaged and interesting. So I think it's great for small channels, but as a viewer, absolutely loving it.
Interesting.
And how about you, Jim?
My channel is very atypical. Like Super Jim, I only publish between 1 and 4 times a year due to the fact that I'm spread way too thin across everything that I'm doing. I have a tentpole series of videos on how to digitize VGS to digital. And I always get a big upswing in October and November because people are going to be going to family gatherings for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And they're all like, oh, wouldn't it be great if I digitized my old VHS home movies? So unfortunately, that contributes almost nothing to the Big Red Arrow Club in general, but I do see an upswing, and it's seasonal. It's possible that also affects my prior videos. However, if they're coming to my channel specifically for the digitizing video advice, they're probably not that interested in vintage computing. So that's another thing, unfortunately, that I struggle with on my channel. I did the digitizing video thing as help advice, constantly not reiterating the same advice to all of my friends. This is how you do it. And then, of course, how to transfer VHS to digital turns out to be, by accident, a very common Google SEO search.
That could be a subject for a whole other video.
That's also a subject for a whole other
VHS
video.
digitizing. And
So,
made a note.
So just to wrap up briefly, I do see seasonal changes, but because I'm sort of this strange, weird, split hybrid channel, I can't say if that is helpful to a smaller channel or not. I just briefly wanted to say something that I think Super Jim touched on, that he said it was about 2 or 3 months ago, and that is actually when I believe I saw the announcement that they were going to be adjusting the algorithm. Also, I think it's interesting that I don't know, but it would be an interesting data point. Do newly created channels get more push? So I think that's an interesting thing to think about.
Would it be worth doing a video of, I've just started a new channel, let's see if I can beat my old one, sort of thumbnail or description or whatever?
Okay. Yeah, so the reason I was asking, and I'm sorry, I'll get to you, Matt, real quick, is I'm trying to bound what YouTube considers to be a small channel. John Retrobytes has the largest amongst us. Jim and I are around the same size, and so I'm just curious where that bump is happening.
Yeah, I approach this in a different way, and I'm glad you did bring that up, because it does give us interesting data. Because I consider all of us, even John, to be small.
Yeah, I mean, on the scale of YouTube, still pretty.
And I think that the forces at work here would probably affect all of us in maybe not to the same extent. You're probably going to see it more on some of the sub 10K channels like myself. It's going to make more of a difference, but and even more so as you go down the scale. Timberwolf has a question.
Yeah, it's more of an addition thing that Jim was talking about with having a video on your channel, which just like drives an immense amount of traffic. And for me, it's very early on in the channel, I did a OpenTTD tutorial, and that has been like consistently about half of all my traffic. And it regularly tops the views, and that's interesting. But I've never looked at the seasonality of it, and I have a feeling that there should be seasonality to it. So when like Yogscast do their Jingle Jam and they do OpenTTD, I'm kind of like, surely that may increase like demand for tutorials and things. But it's been interesting that for me, like when I first did that, and I had a very sort of fledgling, this is a kind of documentary and whatever channel, people would come, watch the tutorial, kind of just bounce off. They'd be like, great, you've taught me how to play a game. I'm happy with that. Off I go. As I built up more of what the channel is now, I found that people would come to the tutorial and they would watch like one or two other videos and they would start to subscribe. So it's kind of fascinated me how that thing which I originally thought of as this is just like almost a millstone that I can't escape because people are coming here for this and bouncing, has become people are coming here and they're seeing like, hey, I get this. I get that this is part of just one thing that you do.
I think I call these our gateway videos because it's the video that when I go to a new YouTube channel to me, I'll look at their homepage, I'll open up the videos section, and I'll sort it by popular to find their most popular video because I want to see what everybody else finds interesting about them. And it's not always representative. And I'm pretty sure most of us here have had a video that's been at the top of that pile that we've had to get rid of. I certainly have. And I know anecdotally that many other people in the Big Red Arrow Club have had that same problem. And it can actually be a bit of an anchor to your channel. Look at Reese. Reese is a good example with his solo videos. So yeah, it can be a problem, and YouTube doesn't always get it right. Okay, I think we should move on to the next question, and I'm going to ask for both. Oh no, not Super Jim because he's just disappeared off my screen. I'm going to ask for who did Matt and John last time. So Timberwolf and Snorkers this time. What are your numbers?
7
and 7 is 12. All right. So the question is niche and a niche. Should you target wider audiences? So YouTube, it's not really kind to small niches like us. We're not exactly front page of the YouTube homepage all of the time. Should we be aiming for wider audiences? Is this something that we should be aspiring to? Jim, what do you think?
I think it is answered completely by your motivation for why you are doing videos. If you are doing videos for yourself, for fun, because you enjoy going back and rewatching what you've done, something I'm guilty of with a couple of mine. I did a video on shrink wrap of all things, and I still watch it myself about once a year. Then you absolutely should niche down, is the strange colloquial term people are using, because you are likely creating content that doesn't exist somewhere else. You're having a fun time doing it, and it can lead to further developments in your channel. For example, if you love it so much you're doing it once a week, that can help with channel growth. If you are creating content that exists nowhere else, you will benefit from the search, from people searching for that content. If you are creating YouTube content to get rich, you should not, because as I can speak to this with my accidental successful how to digitize VHS. If you want to get rich, then you should be as general as possible, and you should try to create videos that satisfy the most common search terms, so that you'll get content that way. You may not, at that point it's a business and it's not very fun, and I don't think that's why any of us are in it specifically. But why you create videos, I think, answers the question directly. Should you niche down, or should you be more general?
My instinct here is to go to Snorkers, but I'm actually going to go to John next, because I think that you are very good at your channel is very good at appealing to a wider audience, almost accidentally, because it just has it's I don't know how to say this without being too condescending, but you're very information heavy, but you do it in a very entertaining way. So are you trying to, I mean, are we going to see John in a hot tub is what I'm asking, basically.
No, I mean, weirdly, I'm trying to be a niche within a niche. I am a computer science textbook set into 20s jazz music. It should not appeal to people. It really shouldn't, unless you're super nerdy and into the weird thing I'm nerding out about this month. But yeah, somehow it's got bigger than I expected. I mean, more than 5 people watched, so that was nice. But yeah, I mean, I was trying to get more and more nerdy, because I noticed a lot of the retro channels, they're more about gaming and less about the machines. And who else does, a video about Token Ring or Scuzzy? It's not, these are not the topics people normally choose, and they sure as heck aren't what people are searching for. But yeah, so I feel like a niche within in the niche of even retro. But weirdly, it's become oddly appealing to people, apparently. That freaks me out a tiny little bit, I must admit. I mean, I got recognized like once or twice in the real world, and I'm not even in my videos. That's how much that's a thing I wanted to avoid. And yet, randomly, like once or twice it has actually happened. So, I was doing something at a folk festival, and a woman came up, and the way she phrased it was I sleep with you every night. And what she meant to say is she falls asleep listening to my videos each night because she finds them weirdly relaxing. She's not into retro even slightly. Her ex-boyfriend was, and he's gone, but the videos have somehow remained as the way she gets to sleep each evening. And she's really going to be utterly freaked out about me talking about that now.
That's that's really amazing. Timberwolf.
Yeah, so this is a thing that for me, when you're really like a very small channel, there's a tremendous power to search. And when you really sort of niche down into these tiny things, they're often, like for me, I have a fair number of some of my most successful videos are there because when you search for that term, this is the only, like what I'd call a sort of at least medium quality documentary video on this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you get I think there's one which has done really quite well, which is just me wandering around London going, how does this compare to Midtown Madness 2? And when you search for Midtown Madness 2, that is possibly the only Midtown 2 video that someone has gone, I'm going to kind of do something with this. I'm going to kind of do something odd. So I think for small videos, and Jim's absolutely right, once you get large, you have to accept that there's a mainstream audience and there's things that could be interested in. When you're small, your challenge is discovery. And so having that thing where people search for this and they're like, oh, someone's done they've put a lot of effort into doing something about this one aspect of this thing, that will get you views. But almost all of my views come from this kind of back catalogue. People were searching for sort of Midtown Madness or Duke Nukem 3D or something else, and they go, oh, hey, this guy's done this, like one video about it, and they've chosen a sort of a weird spin on it. Like they've looked at a mod scene, or they've gone and compared the map to real life, or they've done something like that. So there's definitely an elbow when niching down. It's like that's bad for your channel. But I think at the very small sides, it actually works. Like one of the things which really surprised me was with my channel is I will occasionally do things where I'll go and find like an old QBasic game I've written, and that's just incredible niche, because there's about 15 people in the world that know of this game before I've made the video about it, and yet people will watch it. And one thing that I found interesting from people watching it was a comment that I would get on that is who said, this is something that I had no interest in, but you made this fun. So I watched it, and yeah, so niching down, like I think for a small channel actually is quite useful, because it gives you a sort of a uniqueness. It gives you something that nobody else is doing this. And so when people search for it, when they see it in their feed, they're not going, oh, I've got 100 videos like this. They're going, I've got one video like this.
Yeah, I think the power of the niche is actually something that actually works for us as well as against us. Jim, Trickster Jim, did you have something to say?
Oh, just briefly. I've been noticing, I mean, this is sort of Timberwolf just touched on this, that this is kind of a trend where that and John's videos, and I also liken this to David Murray, to the 8-Bit Guy's videos. It's tech stuff you heard about when you were young and always wanted to know how it worked. And that seems to be a good in for discovery. David's channel is like half that for the most part. You know, how did old school joysticks work? How did, that kind of thing. Oh yeah, I always wondered how did old joysticks work? So anyway, that's all. I think there's a trend there for discovery.
That's nice. Snorkers, what do you got?
I think, as Trickster said, if you want to make money, don't do niche, and certainly don't do what I do, which is type in games. My channel could actually be really cheap because most of the books are available as PDFs, and I could use a free ZX Spectrum emulator. But I don't do it that way. What I like to try and do with my stuff is, it started out, you had these games, I didn't even type them in. You download the games, you play them, and that I commented on that was it. Then I said, okay, then some of the games didn't quite work. And then you start fixing them a bit, and you get a bit more into that. And then you think, okay, I need to describe the backstory to this game. I'll do it over its loading. Oh, now it's loaded too quickly. Okay, it might be easier to just dress up as some wizard and just act out. And then before you know it, you're basically doing the Triumphal March from Aida in your dining room as a whole parade of Egyptians or something. And some of the stuff I've done, it's games I liked as a kid, but didn't know much about or couldn't get very far with. So one of them turned out to be a very Stalkers video, was Software House. It's a game where you're running a software house on the ZX Spectrum, and I played through it, talked the way through the game, and at the end of the game, it sort of crashed to BASIC. I thought, oh, the game's written in actual BASIC. Okay, let's have a look at it. And there were some things that didn't quite work, and I found out, okay, I can make some small changes. Here's how the game worked, and dive into it. And that's actually found some viewers who wanted to look for this very specific game. There's another game I had called Into Africa, which I had on a cover tape in 1991. Never got very far with it. I thought, right, someone must have this on YouTube, tell you what to do. No one does. Right, okay, then I'll spend several weeks playing this game, making notes, building an entire map of the whole thing to find out it's all right. But I want to know what you're meant to do. How do you win? Can you win? What you meant to? And then that is a niche within a niche. My current video is on a game available by mail order only in 1992, of which 5 people bought. I've written the only surviving manual for it.
So I think in your case, and in all of our cases, the core of our channel is if you get viewers that appeals to, they're going to be your core viewers. They're going to be with you for life. So yeah, there's always that to hang on to. Super Jim, I think you're the only one who hasn't spoken on this so far.
I think
you are pretty niche.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Well, I think that's the thing. Is like Snorker said, a niche within a niche. That's pretty much where I sit. Is my stuff is. I played like him. I played this game when I was 6, 7. Had the time. Had the time of my life with it. But how do I explain that story to someone who's never heard of it, never played it, never done how I saw it, for example, sort of thing. But that going back to that niche within a niche, you're essentially like the smaller channels is trying to sort of Google whack yourself. Can I be the only person on YouTube with that piece of content about that particular thing, which is so difficult to do because let's be honest, there is nothing left out there that is wholly wholesale original, unless you're the creator of a new computer or a new system or a new something. I don't think there's that much of a case. You can be original and you've got a new twist on an idea that already exists and find originality that way. And I'm sure someone's going to correct me if I'm wrong and go, I've got this video that's amazingly original. But one of my, because not hugely popular sort of channel is I've got a Mega Engine which is a PC Works thing. It's basically a Raspberry Pi with a Mega CD soldered to it. There's only a couple of hundred of those that exist that I'm aware of. I don't understand how Linux works. I like to play games. I'm an idiot. Let's make a video on how that sort of works or how it doesn't, or my first sort of feelings about it. That's a really popular video, which is one of my more sort of successful ones. And it's not something I'd normally do. Normally, it'd just be me playing an old game, talking about an old game and my sort of feelings or memories, or telling a story or sharing an anecdote, something like that. So I think finding that little bit of passion is the thing that I personally sort of strive for. I don't want to be generalized and make sniper wolf content or whatever. I want to tell stories that I'm sort of fond of, I'm passionate about, I enjoy. But at the cost of that, it's diminishing returns on, I've only got a sort of core audience of sort of hardcore fans, if you'll call them that want to hear my stories, my thing, my sort of take on it. Whereas some of my more popular stuff is me being sort of salty and a bit sass-mouthy about something, someone particular, some group, like people who grade games, things like that. That gets more hits than me talking about an old Commodore game that no one gives a monkey's about except for me.
Oh, we've got two Matts putting their hands up. So Matt D.
Yeah, so in the niche of retro and vintage, I'm pretty general. I'm not really niche within a niche. I sort of do general stuff, except once in a while. And I found that the things that are very niche don't perform nearly as well, at least not immediately. They aren't things that people are searching for, so they may appeal to people when they pop up and they're interesting and they've never heard of them before, but some of the things I do that are very general tend to perform better. So I'm trying to make things that the search will return as a top result, like there's a million Commodore 64 videos out there. It's so general within this niche that it's hard to be near the top of the search. So, I've tried to make things that are like, here's the Getting Started Guide 2023. It encompasses everything you need to know this year. And I'm hoping by doing stuff like that within, the general niche, that it kind of floats to the top. But the stuff that I've really poured my heart and soul into that were very niche things, they never perform nearly as well. Nobody is searching for the history of RipScript. They just aren't. And so, basically, like what Jim said at the very beginning, do what you want to do, really. Do what your passion, make a video about whatever at the moment you feel like making the video about. And,
That's really the heartbreaking thing about this platform, because your RipScript and your how we subtitled Laserdiscs back in the day, the fan subs, I mean, it's obvious you're very passionate about it. I think there's some of your finest work, and yet, unfortunately, the views don't reflect that effort. So you really do have to be all in on your passion for the material and success, and you have to just simply accept that success is going to take a couple of more years than it would for other creators.
Also, with that in mind, with especially your fan sub video and other videos that especially people like Jim and John are making, you're recording our history. That's probably not in too many other places. And
yeah, no one's done it, and it's there as an artifact forever. It may have a longer tail over time, but it has to be said. Someone has to say it now before
that's
it's
my
forgotten.
focus as well. That's really the main focus of my channel, what I want to do. Yeah.
Timberwolf, what did you want to say?
So Jim, you made a very good point, I think, on our discussion channel about PC gaming, and there's a few things that I've done which are very much sort of passion projects in terms of PC gaming, because once you get kind of pre-1988, interest drops off rapidly, and there's a whole world of the PC which is fascinating beyond that, like early DOS, all of the like PC Junior stuff, all of the Booter games, things like that. And I certainly have things that I've done, like a very weird shareware game called Neosa. There's probably like only about a few hundred people in the world who played that when it was new. But again, as Matt says, it's history that if you don't document it, it's going to disappear. Things like Lewis Software's PCRR from 1984, and that's the thing that I remember playing. And there was nothing about that, and that still to this day for me is that I think like 300, 400 views, which is very, very low for a video that old on my channel. But I kind of it's that passion of getting it out there, feeling that, hey, someone's got to document this. And even go back like pre-PC, one thing that I did, which sort of briefly obsessed me, was one of the very first games, Space Travel 1969 on Unix platforms, was everybody who mentioned that would show this one screenshot from Wikipedia. And I'd look at that one screenshot and go, that doesn't look right. That doesn't look like a game. That doesn't make sense. And I became obsessed with running this thing. So finding a 60s mainframe emulator, then patching it so that it could emulate the specific piece of graphics hardware that Space Travel was supposed to run on, and then getting Space Travel compiled and working on this like very, very early sort of Unix X system, and basically getting it running and going, I'm really enjoying this. Like this is now, I'm just having a great time. And this was way early in my career as YouTuber, so I was not very good at packaging like my thoughts on this of how to make this entertaining. But I just had like 10 minutes of me just going, wow, this is lovely. I just love this fact that I found this game from '69 and it's just really enjoyable to play. And this is probably a unique experience for someone of my age who was born well after that game was programmed to actually be playing it.
Fabulous. Right, I think we should move on to the next subject. So I'm going to ask for the two Jims, I think.
Oh, for numbers?
Yep.
I chose a nibble, so 4.
Ooh, 4 too.
I can't see how many fingers you're holding up, Super Jim, because you're 4. Okay, thank you.
My. Jim's like 4s.
Jim's like 4s. So, I like this one. This is a great one. Clickbait. Is it good? Is it bad? Let's talk about the murky world of making people want to watch your video. Actually, I'm going to go back to Retrobytes, Johnny Retrobytes. Now, one of your best thumbnails, in my opinion, is the one that has flamethrowers on a beach in Cornwall. So don't tell me you don't do clickbait. But let's first of all let's define
ever performed.
Yeah, I know. Let's define clickbait, because it's kind of a loose term. Clickbait is bandied around as the term for something that is bad, in that it doesn't deliver on the promise. But let's assume that it's not that. It's actually a thumbnail or an image that does deliver on the promise, but uses the techniques that some people find distasteful. And one of them is actually what our club is named after. The Big Red Arrow is a classic clickbait thumbnail trick. Things like using drop shadows on everything and stroke outlines. That kind of thing. Is that kind of? We'll come back onto the bad clickbait, but is our acceptable level of clickbait, is it a good thing or a bad thing? And I'm going to actually go to Super Jim Tendo first, because I know he'll have an opinion on this.
Why would you? I hate it, the whole thing. No, it's. I'm sure there's been studies on the perfect ones, because if you go on the front page, obviously we're all aware it's the same sort of gorp face and you won't want to miss this and all the rest of it. We're all guilty. We've all seen it. I'm especially guilty of posting on Twitter of, I want to say an ironic, but you purely do it for attention. Of course we do. You wouldn't be on it otherwise. That's why it's called social media. Of doing a stupid clickbaity thumbnail with your big stupid head on it and 17,000 arrows and like, share and subscribe bigger than your actual head. It's purely there to it personally aggravates me, but I can see it being useful for people growing the channels. It's one of those sort of part and parcel things of, if there was a package on how to YouTube, it's definitely in there. The exact things you mentioned, face, stroke, outline, shadow, drop shadow, whatever. That's it. For me personally, it drives me insane, but then some of my videos are purposefully made to incite people to come and click on it anyway. I've actually got a playlist called Clicky Clacky Clickbait, which is just there for stupid nonsense videos that I know people will click on randomly just to be like, what was that? What are you doing? But the whole point is having a happy little joke at the next person that takes that wholly serious, and they really shouldn't. Again, it comes down to, do you want to do YouTube as business? Do you want to make money off it? That's the majority. 9 out of 10 have got those exact same thumbnails, and that's what they do. I think that's, again, it comes into that how to make a YouTube kit. That's what it is.
So I knew he would have very strong opinions on this one. And it is something we've discussed in the club at great length over the past couple of years that we've existed. Other Jim.
I recently struggled with this. Because this year, I don't remember where I read this, but this year is the first year that discoverability on YouTube has shifted in the scales from searches and SEO to browsing, and meaning people on their phones scrolling around, and so unfortunately you are now optimizing your thumbnail to be approximately sorry, I guess I'm going to have to use USA measurements here. You're optimizing for a 4-inch by 3-inch essentially, thumbnail or screen. So that's partially where the stroke comes in, and the drop shadows and so on. Also, you have to. We know what the best practices are. Try to create a thumbnail with emotional content. That's why they have people with surprised faces and all this other stuff. And I struggled recently in that I really wanted to attract new people to the channel, and I don't like crapping on one of my favorite platforms, which you may be able to see in the background. It's the PC Junior, and with the start of my series. And yet I had to concede, and so the giant letters on the thumbnail is doomed to fail, which is unfortunately it's technically correct. It's historically correct. But I felt like I was almost betraying the subject matter by stooping to that. Unfortunately, the video has done much better than my other videos, and I think that's why. I went back and forth with Michael Brutman of PC Junior fame, and he was like, "Don't do it," because we both have this love for the system. It's not clickbait. So to answer the question directly, there's nothing wrong with clickbait as long as you are following the intent of clickbait and not the actual rule of not delivering. So there's nothing in that thumbnail and the text in it that is not covered in the video, but it does follow the same rules. It's got emotional wording. It's got giant words that are outlined. It's, emotionally charged and the whole thing. So I hate to say it, but I think it is because of 2023's shift that it's now like 55% scrolling or something. That is now what we need to optimize for.
Okay, we're in the Jim and Jim show. So other Jim again.
So just want to confirm, I am only having a joke. You're openly defending clickbait in that respect on that video.
Yeah. No, it's very unabashed if you look at that. That thumbnail is like nothing of the. So the thumbnail does not match any of the other thumbnails that I did, and the other thumbnails used to be a simple picture of the item that I was talking about and a single PC 8-bit font with a single word. Like when I talked about the PC speaker, it said beep. When I talk about shrink wrap, it says crinkle. Like I thought that was a funny, creative. If you're browsing through my videos, that would be cute. Unfortunately, that is not how the majority of how people will be introduced to your channel. And I hate to say it, but I'm now also giving some slight thought to going back and changing all of those thumbnails to be of the clickbait style, but being very careful to not actually make them true clickbait, which would depict something that isn't in the video.
Okay, I'll come to you in a second, Snorkus. This is something that I've seen as I said, we started the Big Red Arrow Club a couple of years ago, and just the first few of us that got together, we one of the biggest impacts it had on me was in the thumbnail department, with Rose Tinted Spectrum especially being a master of the thumbnail. He's punching well below his weight. He really needs, YouTube needs to wake up, as far as I'm concerned, and get hold of his channel and launch it, because he really does everything right, including thumbnails. And so as everybody that joins the Big Red Arrow Club, we really, really try hard to share the wealth and spread around all this knowledge that we've gained and experience that we've gained in a short amount of time in the most efficient way. And the best way that we've found is immediately with thumbnails. And we have a very definitive set of rules that you don't have to follow the rules, but they're there and they work. It really does work. We're going to get A/B testing thumbnails soon, hopefully, from YouTube, so we'll be able to actually test this. But I know for a fact that the difference it's made when new members have joined the Big Red Arrow Club, changed their thumbnails, and gone back through their back catalogue and changed their old thumbnails as well. I know Matt D has done that. But yeah, the difference it's made has been staggering. Snorkers, what can I do for you?
So when I started, I was doing weekly videos, and I upload them Thursday evening, and I just get the damn thing finished. It's 10:30 at night. Work the next morning. I'm not doing a thumbnail. I picked one of the 3 thumbnails YouTube suggested, but also I didn't choose the most. If I did some dressing up stuff, I wouldn't choose one of those as a thumbnail. I thought, no, that would be a reward for people who do watch. So it was like choosing a more boring thumbnail, which then of course no one watches because it looks boring, and the videos aren't. Most of the games aren't that graphically enticing for that era. And then I realised actually I am dressing up in various things, so I can actually put that in the thumbnail, because I've not got woman with large breasts I've stolen from the internet who's not in this video. No, she is in the video. She's me with balloons, but she's in the video, and it draws the eye. And you can try and get the idea of what this game is like, because you haven't played this game. Most people haven't played most of the games I've covered. But you get an idea of what it's like to play it, get an idea of the emotion of playing it, or the imagination of playing it, rather than what you actually get was very small pixels moving around the screen. But you try and get the emotion of, this is what it's like to play these games, because that's what in your head you were doing. You're flying a hypersonic bomber, dropping bombs on robots, not selecting the number of asterisks with the longest line, sort of thing.
Your
you don't want to lie, but you have to not lure people in and say, look, this thing you might find interesting, have a go, have a look. And also I put chapters in. Before chapters were a thing, I was putting timestamps on my own videos. So if you just wanted, I want the dressing up bits, mate, you could skip to the bits you cared about, just as a courtesy, because I don't mind, but watch what you want, but I thought it seemed fairer.
Right, I know that John B wanted to say something before he ducked out, and I'll just point out that John and Timberwolf Matt are both muted. John,
I didn't want the sound of my chair moving around. But I was going to say, it's actually something similar to what Snorkers was saying. I don't mind if a video tries to catch your eye a thumbnail tries to catch your eye a little bit. That's sort of the idea of it. As long as the thumbnail delivers on the video delivers on the promise of the thumbnail. If you do a thumbnail with flamethrowers on a beach, there better be at some point flamethrowers on a beach, and a reason to have flamethrowers on a beach. It's got to be related to what the video is about, and as long as that's true, I feel like that's okay. It's where you get thumbnails that maybe suggest things that the video doesn't deliver on, or merely touches on tangentially. You feel like you've been fooled into watching a video rather than, oh, I'm getting the return on the time I expected when I put in this as a viewer. When I clicked, I expected to see a thing, but, the thing was delivered.
Absolutely. Matt?
So, yeah, we needed a better term than calling it clickbait, because clickbait clearly is something that doesn't deliver. And these types of thumbnails we're talking about are ones that, look at human nature and psychology and try to optimize what you're doing for that. Now, true clickbait, you will be punished by the algorithm for, because people will watch it for 30 seconds and click away because it doesn't deliver, and then your channel and that video will fall down in ranking. So, you know, in terms of true clickbait, that's unequivocally bad. But the things we're talking about here, you know, the strokes and drop shadows and big red arrows and, you know, surprised face, I've been loath to do some of that stuff. Up till my most recent video, I've never put my face on one at all. But, you know, psychologically it works. It's what gets people to you know, relate and to click on it. And A/B testing can't come fast enough, because I really want to know what that difference is going to be. I don't want to put my face on thumbnails, but if it means the difference of 50% more views, I'm totally going to do it, even if I hate the idea of it. So, you know, I can't wait for that to come along for the rest of us.
I don't even want my face in my videos, never alone a thumbnail.
Yeah, I'm with you. I try to keep my face to about 10 seconds, 20 seconds in the video at the most, you know.
Excellent. All right, Super Jim, and then we'll wrap up.
Oh,
quick
Jim.
one for Matt. If you don't want your face in your videos, I've got a whole folder full of my own face pretending to do it for you. Just say the word, buddy.
Hey.
I'm going to go the VTuber route. I'm just going to get a 3D model in Unity and rig up like a Xbox like Kinect or something, and yeah, it'll be fine.
There's one that I did with face where I actually think it helped, which was one of the Midtown Madness videos, and it's just the face of someone trying to download a 20-year-old mod, which just so much was summed it up. It's because I'm like quite a sort of, without the A/B testing, still trying to figure out as much as I can, like what works. And I found for like what I do, the face, like if you're putting a face on there just for the point of putting a face, it doesn't make a difference. It still has to tell a story. But I'm very much, and people in Red Arrow Club will know this, I want people to see a thumbnail and to ask a question and to go, this video will answer that question for me. And there's a whole art in, is this a question someone cares about? And it can be like so tangential, the question. Like one of my most successful ones as a thumbnail was Derail Valley, which just was, this game deserves a sandwich. And I did that completely the wrong way, because I did it video first and then thumbnail, which is not the way that people say you're supposed to do it. But it was that sort of made people, what on earth, like how, why is that a conclusion that you should draw from a train simulator game? And I think that actually really worked in drawing people to it, because they went, I want to know that question, and they kind of get into it, and it delivers. You know, it delivers on that. It's stating a clear thing about personality on that. I have a thing as well with the thumbnails, which is something that friends of mine talked about. This again, I think this is a tiny channel mentality. So I think if you're a huge channel, you don't have to care about this. But if you're small and you have this sort of core set of viewers, one thing that said to me quite a lot early on was, I don't. Early on, people went, yeah, if I get recommended your videos, I will watch them, but I don't always see them in the feed. And I went towards a very clear visual identity, and having friends of mine say, yeah, I recognise if I see something in the feed, I know it's one of yours, because you've got the. For me, it's like I use a particular typeface, Rockwell. There's usually some like level of design coherency,
and a big wolf, and a big wolf,
and a big wolf, yeah, which is sort of moves. I actually started using the Timberwolf logo now as a thing to just remind me, this is where the time counter is going to come up on the thumbnail, because I always used to put things down there and then see it on a small screen and go, like, half your text has been obliterated by the length counter.
Well, we're going to actually, I've actually ring-fenced or reserved the dark art of thumbnails is number 1 on the list. So it is something we're going to come back to. And I think it's probably going to be a perennial subject for us, because it's something that is fundamental to some of the stuff that we do, and incredibly important as well. You know, some people don't put enough importance into it.
For people who don't even know this, and there are people on YouTube who don't know this, if you change your thumbnail in you know, the first 24 hours, 48 hours, you can see a huge change in traffic. It is almost immediate. It is measurable, and
we get
it is
these
real.
stats. We get something called click-through rate, which shows us exactly the percentage of people that see our thumbnail and how many will actually click on it. So we know, and we know immediately when a thumbnail is or a video is not performing well because it has a thumbnail that's not doing the job. Right, I think we should wrap up now because we are just over the hour, and I hope everybody found that informative and interesting. And if, despite our terrible opinions, you wish to see more of what we actually do, you can find links to all of our channels in the description. If you have suggestions for future topics we might discuss, please let us know by dropping them into a comment or find one of us on social media. Speaking of which, panelists, where can people find you on the internet? So I'm going to start with Matt D.
Retrobits TV on YouTube.
Jim Leonard.
The Old School PC on YouTube. Use a K, OLDSKOOL.
Timberwolf.
So you find me Timberwolf K on YouTube. You also find timberwolf.club as my website, where most other things have links to. So,
What Host Snorkers?
I'm What Host Snorkers on YouTube and also on Twitch, where I occasionally do streams when I remember.
And Not in a Hot Tub. Super Jim Tendo.
Don't remember what my channel's called. Twitter, that's probably the problem, isn't it, gents? Twitter, at SJimTendo.
Actually, Super Jim Tendos is one of the more difficult ones to find if you search on YouTube. But I do believe if you do it all one word, you'll get to his channel, and it's a kind of cartoon confused face. Retrobytes John.
Retrobytes UK on YouTube.
You can find me. I'm just more fun making it everywhere. So just I've got websites and all sorts of things going on. Right, thank you for watching. I hope you found it entertaining, interesting, and informative. Or if you used it as a way to drift off to sleep, then what was that noise downstairs? Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye.
Goodbye.